Okay, good evening to all, and welcome to our Dream to Rise podcast. And the topic is bridging the generational gap. Today, our panel discussion focuses on understanding each generation's perspectives to foster unity and adaptability in relationships. And this is to discover and learn what the Gen Zs, millennials, and baby boomers are up to in terms of the digital age. How are they able to build deeper and more meaningful relationships? What do they value? What gives them so much joy and fulfillment? There are a lot of issues involved. That's why it is hard to for different generations to understand each other. I'm sure this is a great opportunity for each one of us to be more sensitive, maybe to each other's needs, learn and know each one, and how we can provide support to each one. So I'm your host, Cynthia Concordia, the CEO and founder of Dream to Rise LLC, and I'm joined by four amazing speakers or guests, and my partner Maria Go, also from the Philippines. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to introduce to you our special guest for tonight's panel discussion. So, I will be introducing each one. First is Michaela Spaulding. She is a licensed clinical social worker through the Commonwealth of Virginia. She is also trained as a certified child and adolescent anxiety treatment professional. She has extensive experience with children, adolescents, teens, young adults, and their families in both residential and outpatient settings. Michaela's expertise is focused on trauma, depression, anxiety, crisis stabilization, gender identity, self-esteem, coping skills, and overall mental health wellness. Our next guest is Susan Cristini, also known as the Autumn Chicken. She helps professional first-time moms to avoid guilt and burnout by being present and productive at work and at home. Combining her love of children, wisdom, and personal experiences as a mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother, with humor, she gives personalized solutions for helping your child to feel seen, heard, and loved while you accomplish everyday tasks without giving in to perfectionism. She loves to share her message of confident parenting via virtual and in-person platforms. And she is writing her first book, The Misadventures of a Pet Sitter, for children and their parents. Our next guest, Cara Pangilinan. By the way, you would know who's the baby boomer and the millennial, no? And are known as the details. I am admitting I'm a baby boomer as well. Details Link. She is a visual artist specializing in elaborate expressionism, a style characterized by intricate lines and excessive detail. She focuses on scenes involving landscapes, leaves, and women, capturing human emotions with pen and ink in black and white. Cara began her artistic journey in 2011 and has since grown her brand through high school and college, selling products and speaking at conferences. Her work has gained international recognition with pieces found in homes across the Philippines, Singapore, Paris, New York, and California. She aims to maintain her creative lifestyle and continue expressing herself through her art. And our last guest is a speaker, entrepreneur, and marketer. While still in high school, he is the founder of Dahlgren Social, a thriving marketing company consisting of over a half dozen clients and a growing team of content creators. Asher believes that every person is capable of carving their own path and following their calling. His mission is to empower his peers to embark on their own unique endeavors, choosing the path less traveled and ultimately finding success in the realm of passion. Once you get comfortable with being uncomfortable and you try things you've never done before, that's where success comes from, according to him. That's nice. And Maria is my BA, and I'm so proud to have her with me to join us in this panel discussion. And she will be assisting us in terms of um, asking more questions. And then providing insights as well as a millennials, okay? So again, I am just amazed by what you have achieved at this stage. And even for the younger generations, for Asher, Kara, and Michaela, I'm so proud of you. So may I ask, how do you remain in your power, and continue what you do? What made you pursue what you're doing right now? Probably,
I can go if you guys want me
yes, you
to.
can go,
All right,
Asher.
let's do it. Yeah, so what was the question? It was what makes you keep going?
Yeah, how do you remain in your power and continue what you do?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this, let's see, probably about 2 years now. I think I started the agency, let's see, maybe sophomore year. I'm a junior in high school now. Um, I think it's being able to work with new people consistently. That's something really special. We always get projects. We get inquiries from companies that, we never thought of ever working with before. We always thought it would be, the businesses that you see walking down the block. But we do work with a lot of local companies, but then there are some companies we work with that, are so specific in who they serve and their niche and who they want to target. And it's really interesting being able to work with such a diverse set of companies. Ever since I've started the team as well, because I started the first year of my business, it was just me doing all the work. I was just a solo social media manager. Ever since I've, started with the whole team, now I have 7 people. What really keeps me going in my business is, trying to deliver the best clients and the best set of work to my team, because that's really what's important to me. I serve them along with my clients as well. So yeah, it's really exciting, this business journey, and I'd love to hear from everybody else, their answer too.
Yeah, thank you, Asher. And what is it in that um that you need to do to serve your client? So what do you value in that when you mention about uh taking care of your clients? Is it more on service?
Yeah, so just to give you an overview of what we do. So we do organic content marketing. So for example, take a restaurant, they want to attract customers, they need to get themselves out there. So what we do is we contract with professional photographers. We have them create content that we then schedule out for the month to post on their social media. We'll caption it. We'll add a call to action on that post to get people to share it. We'll send it out to Facebook groups and things like that, really just to try and get our clients out in as many areas organically without doing things like paid ads, which are pretty saturated at this point, for the most part. But yeah, organic content is our core of what we do. And our mission is really just to build a community around the brands that we manage, right? Because, people are on Facebook to speak with family, friends, to see what they're doing. We want to, for our clients, sort of be like that friend or family member, be very personal with the messaging that we have. So that's really, the synopsis of what we do. And that's what I think makes it really special.
Okay. Thank you, Asher. How about Kara?
Hi again. So, well, for me, I'm an artist, and I think what I value most is, I'd say, creative expression. And it's not just for my own expressions. I've been doing this since 2011, so about 13 years, I think. I've been making art for 13 years, but then it sort of evolved into making art for other people. And that's also what motivates me a lot, because I think that the way things are today, it's like people are they're very much attached to digital things, and to everything is online now. But then when I'm able to talk to my clients and create something physical for them, and to get in touch with their emotional side and have them feel a little bit more, or express a little bit more of um just what they value in life also, I feel like that's why I keep going. Because when people see a painting and they can relate to it, it makes them understand themselves a little bit more. And when they purchase it and put it up in their homes, and they're able to talk about it with their guests, I don't know why I like that feeling a lot. It's just another side of people that um sometimes they neglect, I think. So I hope that answered the question, like why I keep going. So yeah, that's it.
Mhm. Yes, thank you. And I agree with you. Most of the time, it's all digital. And
Yeah.
eh, it's also nice to see something um, right in front of you. And you made what's this, the design for our batches. She's
Oh,
a
I did.
daughter of my classmate in high school. And we had a shirt which she designed, and it was great. Very beautiful, beautifully done.
Oh, is it okay to add one more thing? I guess apart from creative expression, I really take empathy with me a lot in all kinds of projects. And because so you mentioned the shirt. I think that what I'm able to do also is read what people are trying to say and what they're trying to express, and sort of articulate it in a visual manner. And so that I feel is something that people also value. That's why art, I think, is very important, especially now.
Mhm. I think that's the main objective of an artist. Even singers. So artists, they share their message through their art, through their paintings, through their drawings, and even songwriters through their music. Beautiful. Thank you, Cara. How about Michaela? By the way, I would just like for Michaela, if you would be able to share with us also um, being a psychology graduate, or being a therapist, it would be a big help for us to give us some kind of enlightenment coming from that point of view as well, no? At the same time, a millennial as well. Uh-huh.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So my line of work, for those that don't know, I'm a licensed psychotherapist. So I provide clinical outpatient therapy. And I also work for a fitness company as well, where we bridge mental health and physical health. And so I guess the question was like kind of like what drives us and what motivates us. For me, it's really just well, it started as my fascination with psychology in general and mental health, both from a personal standpoint, but then that transpired to professional, and then eventually working with clients. I worked in a residential facility working with clients who struggled with self-harming behaviors and suicidal ideation and attempts. And so that kind of gave me a glimpse of the more not so great, more of the negative aspects of how mental health is damaged in some ways, and how it can be nurtured, and also just like the level of resiliency that I've seen with clients. And so I would say what keeps me going is just essentially the work that I do with people, and just being able to identify, cognitive distortions, and having that backed up by science and research, and then also moving away from, when is a mental health diagnosis important, and when is it just a diagnosis and it actually doesn't label us or anything like that. So yeah, I think that answered your question. Maybe let me know if it
Yes.
didn't.
Yes.
But yeah, I look forward to the conversation.
Mhm. Great. See, I'm just really amazed by all what you're doing at a very young age. And then now for Susan.
Boy, I don't know. Um, when I was all your ages, no way I would be doing what you're doing, probably. But so I am reinventing myself for the umpteenth time. And what motivates me, boy, I keep going back. So I have been a substitute teacher in schools for almost 20 years. And I've done all ages. And my first thing was wanting to stop teen suicide because I lost 2 students to suicide. And, it's a pretty awful thing, and how it affects everyone. And my granddaughter uh, has suicide ideation, and she came to me, and I was able to help her. So that was my first bent. And then I started going down to the littler kids and working more in the elementary schools. And one day a 6-year-old came up to me and said, I don't know why I'm alive. And that hit me, tore my heart out, because no child should ever have that thought. Every child deserves to live in joy. Every child deserves to feel heard and loved and seen. And I mean, I can look at my own life, and it by the way, this just hit me today, just so you know, this is new, that in my own life, I was invisible, not listened to, and didn't feel loved by my mother. Well, funny thing that would be what I want to help other children avoid. Or as someone just said to me, it's taking your own crap and turning it around and making it gold. And that's what I'm doing. And it's very, very important to me. Children are phenomenal. They have so much to give and so much to live up to. And yeah, so that's what keeps me going, just being with kids. I can't be with them enough. So
I
that's it.
hear you, Susan. Yes. Just like me, we've gone through a lot also in our lives, our journey, struggles. And that's the main reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. Yes, for our children, because they deserve to live uh, a great life, to live their life to the fullest. And I don't want them to live the life I've had before. And it's hard, but it's one thing that keeps me moving right now is my purpose. My purpose is to really, actually, my vision is so simple: spread sunshine and happiness to all, so this may create a ripple effect. And that's the main reason why I'm shy, huh? I never talk. I mean, speak in public. I am not like this. Isn't it, Mika?
I think
My
your son does not agree.
But then it came to a point that it's not about me that I have to think about. It's about others. What message should I need to share so that others may be able to learn from our stories? And that's it. Okay, thank you so much. And Maria, would you like to share something?
Well, since everyone is so serious about it, for me, it's about the bills.
The bills.
Yeah, it kept me motivated. Like seeing the bills, every due date,
Ah,
and also my family. Yeah, because I like to see them happy. Like whenever I treat them to dinner, or whenever it's payday, I always buy a pizza for my nephews and nieces. They always ask, "Oh, it's your payday. You know what to do." Yeah, I know what to do.
Actually, the important thing here is the quality time that you spend. It's not about
Yeah,
treating them out. It's a quality time you spend with
yeah.
the
We
with your
gathered
family.
and eat together. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, the next question I would like to ask is, what are the problems have you encountered with interacting with other generations in terms of building healthier relationships with it, which you can probably you've discovered this within your family and work environment. Let's start now with Susan.
Well, I am a very straightforward person. I say what I mean what I say. And my son grew up with that and still expects that from me. He would be shocked if I wasn't that way. My granddaughters also lived with me, so they're used to it. So my communication with them is very straightforward. Um, and and their communication with me is the same. And they still, my son still calls me and shares things with me. My granddaughters share things with me. And one of the things I believe in is being respectful both ways. And it's really easy when you've been through as much as I have to give advice, but I don't unless they ask for it. Or I will ask them, do you want me to tell you what I think, or do you want me to just listen? And I think that's the most important thing with communication between any generations is listening, active listening, not thinking about what you're going to say, but actually hearing what the other person is saying. And that's what I practice with my family. I did that at work, and I still do it at work. Um, you know, when little kids come up and want to share things with you when they've just met you for the first time, that's a gift. It's a gift, and I see it as a gift, and I love it. You know, so yeah, I think the main thing is respecting each other and active listening. That's the key.
I agree with you. You know what? I'm guilty about that thing because whenever there was a time when my son shared his story and I was about to give or share my advice. Mom, I just want you to listen. I don't need your advice. And that's why I'm learning a lot from my children. And before I was raised to be like that. The elders, they automatically give advice. But now I'm starting to adapt to the needs of the children. So how about Kara now?
So I think I have definitely encountered not really problems, but maybe points of tension both at home and at work because of the being in a different generation. So I guess I'll start with work. So I'm a visual artist, and I think that alone is something. Maybe it was new and different in the eyes of my parents. So even just telling them and or wanting to be an artist, it wasn't considered a real like work option before. So when I was in college, I took up architecture because our parents really wanted us to go on a safer path or more secure work path. But all the while, I kind of knew in my heart that I wasn't really meant for an office job, and I wasn't really meant for the corporate life. So it was a little bit of a struggle, even just to say and to fight for the work that I wanted to do, which is making art. So like when I told my mom, she cried and I had to tell her. Because of course our parents want us to be safe. So I really agree with Susan that listening is very important. So in those points of tension, it was very important not to just fight for what you want, but also to see where they are coming from. Because of course, there's a stigma of like the starving artist. And then I was telling my mom, like, I'm gonna do well. I'm not gonna starve. You have to kind of also, there's a little bit of a, something to prove. And so that was a work/family example. But now at work, it's also very different. The way people promote themselves, like what Asher does, it's online now, and it's different from the old school gallery institutions who are so used to more old-fashioned ways of dealing with art. And um, an example of that is that I get a lot of my clients through my own connections and through online connections, but then sometimes that's frowned upon in some galleries because they want to be the bridge between the artist and the client. So even just that, it's very different the way young people think, because now we have the whole world at our fingertips, and if you want to promote yourself, you can do that. So it's something that you kind of have to balance, like respecting the traditional ways of doing things while allowing yourself to explore the new options. So there's a lot of that at work as well. And um yeah, so I think it's the differences in the values between generations that causes the conflict, because like, so I think this is the way, and the older people think this is the way. So I think what we have to know is that there are many ways, and we just really have to learn from each other and respect each other.
Yes. But how were you able to convince your mom that this is the path I would like to take?
Oh, well, that was very um easy also, because I didn't take on this path until I had like proof that I could um survive on it. So I was working at an architecture firm, and in the Philippines, we're paid very low as as starting architects. So it was as simple as, I just showed her the numbers also, like, this is what I'm earning through my art. I will never earn this much in my firm. Like, it's gonna take me this long. And so it was, you kind of have to weigh things out loud. Well, that's because, like, for me, or in the Philippines, we um it was very important to me that my parents were comfortable and that they were gonna be able to support me. And I think it was I did it in a very practical way also. Like, I wouldn't have pursued my art if I didn't think it would work, like, in a business sense.
Mhm. Thank you. Thank you. It's so hard to convince the elders, right? There's always tension. I'm telling you. Yes. Yes, Susan. I unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to share something because Karen made me think of it. Excuse me. Education is very, very important to me. I was the first person in my family to get a college degree, other than an art degree. My sister has a degree in art, but I was the first one to get an academic degree, and I paid my own way through college. Very important to me. My former husband was a pharmacist. Education, very important. My son, in his junior year of high school, decided he was going to drop out. Now, how did I handle it? That's, you dealt with. So my son, I'm very aware that when my son is not happy about something, or if something is wrong, he gets ill. And just before school started, his junior year, he was sick out of nowhere. And I just looked at him and said, okay, what's going on that you don't want to deal with? And he said, I don't want to go back to school. I said, okay, what are you going to do instead? We had a conversation. I didn't go, oh my God, what do you mean you're dropping out of school? It's like, so what are you going to do? He says, I'm not sure. I said, fine. If you drop out of school, you need to get a job. You're not going to lie around. With that being said, do what you're going to do. It's your life. And that has always been my thing. It was his life, not mine. And that was a real hard thing for his father to accept. His father went kind of ballistic when I was the one who told his father, by the way, because I knew he would go ballistic, and he did. And my son left school, and he did go back and get his high school diploma, and he is now an EMT, and a fabulous one. He's been one for over 20 years, and I'm very proud of him. And he followed his path, not mine, not his father's, his. And that was fine with me. So just wanted to share that. Not all parents are combative or don't listen to their kids, and have a hard time with it. So
Of course, of course. Oh, thank you so much, Susan. How about Michaela?
Yeah, I think, I mean, just problems. I mean, I feel like I've seen such a diverse set of problems with the families and the clients that I work with in a psychotherapeutic role. But then when thinking of my personal life, whether it's with family or work, right? I think some of the problems are just just kind of like differences in priorities, and kind of like what Kara was saying, values, right? Like when you think of older generations kind of like wanting to instill what's important to them. And of course, that's what we do, what we want to instill in our kids, certain values. But then, yeah, having that balance of like, well, it's also their life. So they also get to determine what is of value to them, right? And I think that's where tension comes in, when it's like, well, my way is this, we want you to be a certain way. And then that's where conversations kind of arise. And, luckily I've had parents who are very open to what I wanted to do. There was nothing that they were ever like, you must go down this route or whatever. They've been so supportive and just what I'm passionate about. One interesting thing that I do see now, just kind of in reflecting as we're having these conversations, is like mental health in general was not a thing at all in my family, or I guess just in the culture of the Philippines in general. Like mental health is not something that we talk about as much as compared to here. And so going into a field which is very mental health focused, my parents would sometimes joke to be like, there's no such thing as depression in the Philippines or anxiety and things like that. And so having that role now where I get to educate my parents, which is also very new to them. So I also see that perspective, but I think there is that tension sometimes where it's like, well, kind of disagreements and things like that, which before I was very much like, no, I have to convince them. This is like, there's literal science behind it. I'm literally studying this in college and graduate school. Like, I don't know how much more I can prove that mental health is real. But then also taking into account their own upbringing, their own culture and all of that. So I think it really goes back down to kind of like what Susan and Kara were saying, like that openness and respect, and just being able to have these open conversations and being receptive to what other people are saying. So yeah.
I agree. Especially in our family. Very from the grandparents, that very instilling, okay, this is what you need to do, and we have to follow. But now I'm also learning how to express myself to my mom, and still respect should be present. I agree. How about Asher?
Hey, yeah, so could you repeat the question? It kind of slipped from me. I was busy listening to everybody's really interesting answers. I'm learning a lot here, by the way, but if you could repeat the question.
I'm glad. So the question, what problems have you encountered with other generations in terms of building healthier relationship within family or work environment?
Yeah, so, kind of like what everybody else was saying, it can be an obstacle to, I try and advise some of my peers, because sometimes they ask me, how do I start a business, right? How do I, walk down my own road, because, they see what I'm doing and they're like, I want to do something similar, or, it's a very digital age. So they're like, how do I do marketing, or how do I, make it big on social media, or how to, you know, so it's like it's a lot of the younger generation wants to do, I guess you'd say, not traditional things, you know, and sometimes that can be smart, sometimes it's not, you know, and I noticed that I feel like a lot of, you know, like my parents and, you know, parents of, you know, maybe the Gen X generation are, you know, generally speaking, probably more open than before, you know, I imagine before, you know, decades ago, to more unconventional careers. You know, I think the trades is a big thing. You know, you can make a lot of money as, you know, I know an electrician who makes 300 grand a year, and it's like a lot of the unconventional stuff, there's a lot of merit to it actually. And so what I try and tell my peers is, you know, don't do something because you because someone else is telling you to do it. Don't do something because you see another person that you really like and or admire and they're doing it. You know, try and think for yourself. Back to your first question, Cynthia, you know, what gets you up in the morning? What keeps you going, right? um, so I think that, you know, it can still be an obstacle between the younger and older generations regarding career paths, but I think it's something that people have sort of adapted to. um, and, you know, whenever somebody asks me about my business, I always say, you know, the reason I do this, you know, again, back to the answer to the first question is, you know, I love working with other entrepreneurs. You know, it's amazing being able to work with so many different businesses. And I don't see my, excuse me, I don't see myself in the social media space um, forever, but you know, for the next 5, 10 years, you know, I'm still going to focus on growing the business, but I'd like to eventually get into real estate, and that's a career that, you know, it's sales. You work on your own terms, and so yeah, I think that that sort of obstacle has bridged a little bit, but yeah, I think it's important to still take advice from older generations regarding career, but don't make it your end all be all, if that makes sense.
Yes, yes, I agree. Each one, we have a choice, right? And the parents should be more understanding of the choices made by their children. Yeah, and be open. And it all of you, even though we're from different generations, see, it all boiled down to openness and respect. And I don't see any difference. See, it's just a matter of how we respond to a situation. And most of the time we react immediately, and responding in a more matured way helps, and that avoids conflict. Wonderful. So the third question, to build healthier, yes, I think we've mentioned about communication, what's the difference between I mean, communication styles vary across generations, from face to digital platforms. How can we bridge these communication gaps to enhance understanding and collaboration? What style would you use? How can we encourage flexibility and adaptability across generations to navigate change together? I know you have mentioned about the tension and so on. That's why there comes a point wherein you get fed up, or you answer, sometimes we answer back, but for us it's expressing ourselves, no? But the older generations, they see it as answering back. So what type of how do you communicate, like from the Gen Z, Asher? How do you communicate with the elders? Is there a difference, or do you do face to face, or do you just
Yeah.
text each other, or what?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. Let's see, I have about 10 minutes. I have an international client that That's why I'm working at 9 o'clock. I'm on the East Coast, but I gotta pick up a call at 9. But
Okay.
yeah. So I think communication with anybody, regardless of age. I think that it's important to put yourself in the other person's shoes. I think is the biggest thing, right? I'll give you an example. When I'm speaking with a client on a discovery call, when I'm getting to know their needs, to see what services suit them best, I don't like it to be, um, here's what I do, here's all about me. I like to put myself in their shoes and just really, really learn as much as possible about them. And that comes down to, somebody mentioned active listening. That's very important. Um, so I think being able to listen, learn, be genuinely curious about the other person. If you're genuinely curious about people, that's the key to networking. People like people that, open up conversations about them, right? So being genuinely curious in other people, putting yourself in their shoes, very important. That's my advice to anybody that wants to network with individuals, regardless of their age, or, in even a less professional context, right? That's an example of a professional instance. But, if I have friends that are older and I do go out to lunch with, some older people, whether we talk business or whatever. And, I think, being able to, I said put yourself in their shoes, but also understand where they're coming from. They might come from a different generation. They were raised with a different set of values, right? Because values change over time. And, I think that commonly known, I guess you could say, hurdle between generations are, not being able to relate on the same subjects. The culture is different depending on the generation, but being able to see the good in everybody and being able to just take somebody for who they are, connecting with older adults. Maybe we listen to different types of music, or, read different books or watch different movies, but you could still find value in every individual. And I think, there's a million potential things you can have in common with somebody, and just finding that one thing can spark a whole new valuable relationship.
Wonderful. So do you still prefer the old method of communicating face to face?
I do, actually. Yeah, I think I really do not like email. I don't know about you guys. Hate email. I will always try and get a phone call or face to face whenever possible. I think texting and emailing. I was just talking about this the other day, actually. It can take the empathy out of it, right? It can take the empathy out of communication. And so, I always go for a phone call or a face to face meeting or a Zoom meeting like this. I think that's, the most important in sales and personal relationships, in networking, all the above.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Asher. How about Michaela? I'm just trying to mix.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, in terms of bridging it, I think it all goes back to intention, right? Like your example of talking and speaking your mind can be interpreted as disrespectful or talking back. And I resonate with that because that was me growing up. Like I was very hard-headed and very vocal, but in my head, I'm like, no, I'm just communicating my thoughts and my feelings and all this stuff. And I think it all goes back to intention, right? So if your intention is not to disrespect or to be a pain in the butt or something like that, it's more of like, I want to be able to express myself and hear it. I think that's how we can kind of have that adaptability between all generations, is just, hey, let's just be clear. Like, what is the purpose of this conversation we're having? What am I trying to get at? Very clear, very effective type of thing. And then if there is room for misinterpretation, you tackle that at the very beginning, right? And I think that's when communication becomes really difficult for a lot of people. And I talk about effective communication a lot in my line of work, right? Is like, you could be the best communicator in the world, and yet it takes two. And so if the second person that you are trying to communicate with is just completely closed-minded and not willing to hear you out, it's not going to receive well. And so I think that's important to note too, that there is that receiver and provider in terms of communication. But I thought that was interesting too, what Asher said in terms of preference for communication, which it depends for me. Like sometimes I do prefer just a quick communication, because getting on a phone call or getting on a FaceTime does take a lot more mentally and emotionally when I talk to people all the time already, or it could be like in between sessions, or, you know, if my parents are texting me on a work day, I'm like, I don't have time to get on a phone call, but like still want to respond to you type of thing. And I think that comes back to boundaries too, is like, how good are we at setting boundaries to be like, hey, me not answering your phone call doesn't mean I don't want to talk to you. It's just I don't have the mental space right now. I'm literally doing something else, or maybe I'm having just me time, but I would love to schedule a phone call with you. And I think that goes back to that effective communication is, can you actually express that in a way that the other person is not going to hopefully perceive it in a negative way? So, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and Michaela, just to respond to that real quick, the first part of that, I'm like totally with you on that. I think you kind of have to be an entrepreneur, but I'm like very hot-headed, very go against the grain, right? And so some phrases that I like to use when speaking with clients or anybody, especially if they're older, is, because I like to be direct. I won't not be direct, but you got to be direct the right way. So a lot of times I'll say, may I be direct with you? Do I have permission to be direct with you? And then be honest, right? Because I think it's important to set frames first, like to set frames, expectations, whatever you want to call it, but just set that precedent before you get into that. So that way they're prefaced with what to expect, So I'm with you on that.
Mhm. Wow. Look at all those responses, all your how you view things, no? I'm just surprised. And how about Susan?
Well, I definitely prefer face to face. Even my granddaughter with my great grandson, I don't get to see them often, even though they're not that far away. It's only an hour and a half, but that's an hour and a half is far enough. And she will every now and then she'll text me and say, can we get on a Facebook Messenger video, and we'll do a video chat. So I get to see my great grandson. So I do much prefer. I do text when I have to. Sometimes you're just too busy, and I hate being too busy, but sometimes it just doesn't fit in the schedule. And I don't like it because I don't use the shorthand. Sorry, I like English. I use the English language. And sorry, that's my thing. And but I do if I have to, but I do prefer a phone call, Zoom, but more importantly, face to face, in person, so I can hug the person and feel them and be with them totally. I like the personal. I like the emotion that I feel when I'm with them in person. That's important to me. So
I agree with you because me, I like to have this face-to-face communication conversation because you try there. It's not only verbal communication but non-verbal communication as well. That you see how uh, her reaction, her response, her behavior, and it means a lot to me as well. Thank you, Susan. How about Kara?
So far I agree with everything. The face to face, there's nothing like it. Face to face communication, and I think the question was also about bridging the gap or making sure everyone is on the same page. And I think that takes a lot of empathy because, as I mentioned a while ago, to communicate effectively, you really have to be able to read the person's mind a little bit and just see where they're coming from. And also, I think that it also takes a little bit of persistence because effective communication isn't about one-time conversations. I think that because of the differences in values and age or whatever, there will be some conversations that are a bit more difficult. And I think it's during those times that you have to sort of think to yourself like, okay, I'm not gonna stop pursuing this topic, because sometimes it's hard and you're just like, oh, you know what, forget it. But then I think it's important to sort of come back and say, you know, tackle it again and figure things out patiently. And I think it's also a bit timely that, so because I'm getting married soon, and throughout this wedding planning season, I've seen a lot of these little problems and the moments of tension, simply because the new way is different from the way it was. And that's why I really think that I'm okay now, because I'm using a lot of energy to not create more problems and to just allow people to give their opinion. There's so many people giving me their opinion and hoping that I do it this way and this way and this way. And I'm just like, yep.
Yeah.
I'm kind of just woohoo. Because I don't really want to do it that way. But I don't think it's worth the energy to be so firm in my way, because a lot of it is just coming out of love and excitement anyway. So it's kind of funny like how different things are. But it's also nice that I get to, or that we all get to sort of pick the best bits from each generation, like the best qualities.
Yeah.
So I think I'd like to keep doing that. I'd like to keep learning from everyone. And I'd just figure out your own way by doing that.
I like that. All those suggestions, just keep them to yourself and then choose the best parts and then
Yeah.
come up with your own decision.
It would be a lot more stressful to just fight everything that's a little bit different. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I just want to make it a little bit faster because I know Asher is leaving. Because education, I want to put to include education, the education systems and workplace dynamics. They have evolved significantly over the years. How can we ensure that each generation is equipped with the skills and knowledge needed to thrive in today's world? May
Yeah, so I guess
ask
I'll go
Asher.
because I gotta head out after
Yeah.
this. So yeah, I think the school system, especially in the U.S. I mean, I'm thankful to go to a great school district. We're a public school district, and we're a very good district. So um, yeah, I'm thankful for the school system that we have, the people that I get to meet and learn from. I built great connections with teachers, especially I have a couple business teachers, for example. I learn a lot from them, especially. But I think that self-education is just as important as traditional education, because quite honestly, you don't learn the skills that you need to thrive in today's world, right? You're book smart, but you're not, what do you call it, life smart, right? So I think that you need to self-educate. I would say the three, if I could put my finger on like three most important skills that school doesn't teach, it's people skills, right? How to talk with people. In the business context, that would be sales, but people, management, whether it's management of your own time, management of your workload, or management of people. Management's very important.
And even finances.
Finances, yeah, that's a great third. Yeah, I was between like finances and marketing, because they're both very important. How to brand yourself, dealing with your finances. I mean, there's so many skills. You could write a whole list, but school doesn't teach that stuff, right? So we need to self-educate alongside traditional education. I think so. My message to students that really do put their full faith in the school, their heads in the books, right? They get straight A's, they're very good students. I think that's a great thing, because you can, take those good grades, take the book smart material that you've learned and apply that to a successful career, and further that knowledge through college. So I think that, if you want to become, if you want to get into a more traditional career, definitely apply yourself in school. My message to them, though, would be don't neglect those other skills. Self-educate. You can learn a lot online, a lot from even just YouTube. And also ask people for advice. Like 9 times out of 10, especially if the person is older and older people generally, I feel, know a bit more. They have a bit more life experience, right? So ask people for advice. People really do want to help you and educate you. So have other people become your mentors, not just your teachers, right? So that's my message to that type of student. My message to students that might not apply themselves in school, might disregard school because they feel that, it doesn't teach any of the skills that they're going to need in life. I would say that, you're offered something for public school is free, and you meet a lot of great people. You're able to surround yourself with people your age. You have teachers that you can learn from, not just from the traditional course material, but they can sort of be like your mentors as well. So if you want to take sort of that more unconventional route, not go for a traditional career, and you think that, school isn't worth your time because of that, I would say find a way to make it worth your time, because there's so many resources that it provides you and a lot of great people that you're able to be around. And, even if you're not going to use math, if you're going to be, if you're going to start your own business or become somebody in the trades, you're not going to use math or science probably, but by learning that stuff, you broaden your perspective on life. And I think that a big part of life is continuous learning. That's an important value. So I know you're laughing, so I want to hear what you think before I hop off here.
Yeah, Susan.
So Asher, I have a degree in math, just so you know. But as when people say they're not going to use math, if you're running a business, you better know math, or you're not going to know whether you're making a profit or not, or you're not going to know what your expenses are. So you better know math.
Yeah,
And
believe me, when I
things?
go through QuickBooks, if I didn't know math, I would be really screwed over. But
Exactly.
yeah, just the big broad point that you're not going to use everything that you learn, but broadening your perspective, even if it's not applied, I think that's of an important value to just take with you throughout life.
And you are a very astute young man. I'm quite in awe of you. You're very well spoken for a 16-year-old. I am. You're quite amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. It was great learning from you guys, and this is a great conversation. So thank you, Cynthia.
Okay. If you have to leave, please go ahead. And I thank you for attending this. And it's an honor to have you all here. But if you have to leave, I just need the views of other members here. Okay, Asher, if you have to leave, you have an appointment.
Yep. All right. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Bye, Asher.
Bye-bye. How about Kara?
Sorry, I also got lost a little bit. What was the question again? I'm so sorry.
The education system.
Oh, yes.
What do you think should be included? The education system right now.
Yeah. Well, I can only speak for the Philippines, I guess, and I'm very biased towards creative work. So I'm a visual artist and my sister's a theater artist, and a lot of the people in my family are working as musicians now. So I just feel like the traditional system needs to just open up a little bit more to all the new jobs that are that are options now, and to really consider them as valid options to be able to encourage the young people to pursue what they are really innately talented in. Because I think that when I was in school, art and everything creative was on the side, and we really had to focus on math and science and English and all the traditional stuff, and that was a struggle for me. I did it well, but they didn't like it, because my heart was somewhere else. And I think it was the same for a lot of people, including athletes. And I don't know how, but if there is a way to just show all the other options, including the virtual options, like now people make so much money online. There's so many things that you can do, but they don't really, there's no checkbox for those job options. Like when you travel, it's like occupation and I say artist, and they're like, what? And sometimes it causes problems because it's not real in the eyes of other people and in the eyes of some institutions. So I think creatives need a lot more support, and young people need a lot more. They need to know everything that they can do. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Just being open for the schools, no? Be open to all possibilities, opportunities for the students. So for Michaela.
Yeah, I'll speak to like, the education system here, especially working with children, adolescents, and teens. Like what I've seen as a shift from when I was in high school was now everyone's doing things online, right? Like in public schools here in Virginia, every student is provided a laptop from the county, and that's where they do all their work. Even when they're in the classroom physically, it's like they're all on their school computers. And then I see those kids in my office coming to me with mental health problems due to one, just the pressure of the amount of work that they have to do, right? It's almost kind of like, well, if you have access to all this information and it's literally in a click of a button that you can complete this work, then let's double the work, let's triple the workload. So of course there's that impact. And then another thing that I've found is just the increase in social anxiety, right? Like kids come to my office and they don't know how to talk to their peers. They don't know how to advocate for themselves because all the communication is virtual or digital. So I think that's one gap that I would love to see shift in our education system here in Northern Virginia. And I will say too, like Fairfax County, where I'm at, I mean, we're one of the greatest counties in terms of educations, which I, definitely commend, but there's always room for improvement, right? So I think back to that is like, yes, we have the resources to provide each child with a laptop, for example, but then there also needs to be that balance of like, hey, maybe we don't need to do all the coursework through a computer, and there's more collaboration and open dialogue. Handwriting essays is definitely not a thing now. And then you'll see kids who use Chat GPT or AI to write their papers. And then you see all those things kind of come up when they do want to pursue higher education. And, that's not going to fly in college and graduate school. And so I think that's one area. And then in terms of like what other skills and knowledge that are needed to thrive, right? I think that also depends on what does it mean to each individual to essentially thrive, right? To other people, it's to make as much money as possible. That's how they decide they're going to thrive in the world. To some people, it's like, well, I want to grow up, get married, and have kids, and that's fine too. And I think that's the differences where there's no right, correct way to go about it. I really honor each person's individual, take on their life and kind of what they want to do. And it's more of just like, how do they define what it means to thrive? But really, if we look at more from the mental health perspective, it's like, how can we enhance that overall mental health wellness? And that's making sure that we keep in check just all these like negative mental health symptoms that we're seeing more and more now, unfortunately, just because we know so much more about it.
It's just unfortunate at this time, a lot of children now are having problems in terms of mental health, and suicide rate is going up. It's so high now. And I hope this podcast will be able to, will reach out, will be able to reach out the school system and other generations on how they could deal with other people, how would they engage with other people, communicate with other people in a more matured way. So last one, Susan, how about you?
I have a lot to say on this subject, like a lot. Boy, where to begin? First of all, let me say that quite a few years ago, I can't even tell, probably 20 years ago, maybe even more, I was at a convention and the keynote speaker was in education. And the first statement she made was, keep computers out of the elementary schools. It will dumb your children down. Well, she's been proven right. It has happened. And not only does it dumb them down, but they don't learn personal skills. They don't learn to talk to each other. They don't learn to collaborate. They don't learn to be human beings. That's number one. Number two, I have a lot, like I said. Kids today, and I'm saying kids, but even older kids, take what they see on the internet as gospel. They think everything they see on there is the truth. They think AI is telling them everything that's true. And we all know that is not true. They don't know how to spell because they think spell checker will correct it for them. Well, guess what? If you don't know how to spell, who's going to create the spell checkers? And by the way, I have found errors in spell checker. Same thing with grammar. You need to learn those skills, and you cannot learn them from a computer. You just can't. That's another thing. Boy, I have all these things here.
But Susan, let's have just make it
one more.
Yes.
One more. So, and I wish Asher was here because he was talking about not learning time management. Several years ago, I was a long-term 7th grade math sub, and they did a project, and I gave them a week to do this project. And I had some of them come to me and say, I'm not going to get it done in time, blah, blah, blah. And basically I said, well, what do you want to do about it? I had them tell me what they wanted to do. I didn't tell them what to do. Anyway, the long and the short of it is, at the end of it, I said to them, I want you to write down for me what you learned from this project. And don't tell me you didn't learn anything, because you learned something. 85% of the students wrote, I learned to use my time more wisely. Mm-hmm. And I took those and gave them to the principal of the middle school. And I said, this is something you need to be aware of, because you are not teaching this to your students. And it is a skill they need to know for their lives. And absolutely, time management. It's such a huge thing that we don't teach in our educational system. And also the other thing I hate in the educational system today is the labeling, the ADHD, ADD, whatever, the labeling, because I see it, and this is what I've observed, and I've been doing this for a long time, that a lot of people who deal with those children tell them they can't do certain things because they're not capable of it, because they can't concentrate or whatever. I have worked with some of those children, and I have never, because I'm not privy to whether or not they're labeled and coded and what have you, I have gotten more work out of them in a day than the people who work with them on a regular basis in a week, because I tell them they're capable and I help them do the work. So that's another thing that I hate. And by the way, if they labeled when I was in school, I would never have attained all the things that I attained. Never. Anyway, that's it.
Each one is
sorry.
Yeah. Okay. It was a great discussion we've had, and thank you so much for all your valuable insights and perspectives. It's clear that by understanding, respecting, and learning from each other, we can bridge the generational gap and create a more united and adaptable society. So again, thank you so much, Susan, Cara, Michaela, Asher, Maria, for being here with me. And I found that based from the discussion, there's no gap, really. There's no gap. So it's just a matter of, again, respect, be open, what you have just mentioned, and active listening. show empathy, emotional intelligence. Put yourself into in the shoes of the other person, so you may know where they're coming from. And again, thank you. And I hope there's another one next time. But thank you so much for being here with me and with us. And truly an honor to have you all here. Okay.
Thank you,
Thank,
Cynthia.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye,
And
everyone.
bye
Nice meeting
bye.
you all.
Bye bye. Bye, Maria. Bye.